Welcome into the Hustle Podcast. I am Kelly Stewart at Kelly in Vegas on Twitter, joined by Chris Thurston at CT Bets 16, I think. I'm losing it, Chris. I was an hour early to another show today. I said I needed Fryermuth to score 50 on Twitter, and in fact, I need him to score 60 tonight. He wasn't going to score even 20, so it doesn't matter, but my brain is broken. I appreciate all of you guys hanging out with us on this beautiful Monday. At least here in Florida it is. CT, a little under the weather, crappy weather in Boston, but we're going to get through this. We got a doubleheader for Monday Night Football, and I kind of like that because if one of the games sucks, you just flip the channel and you got another good game on. So we're going to get into that here in a minute, but CT, I'm going to recap this weekend. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. My NFL sucked. 1-2, 1-2. Teasers, meh, thanks to the Bears this weekend, thanks to the Steelers last weekend. It sucks when you have these teams, particularly that should be within the number that we're in. Now, granted, the Steelers, the first weekend, were not within the number at all. They got absolutely obliterated. But the Bears, Justin Fields, I even just was like, you know what, to make myself feel better, I retweeted my Bears under 7.5 wins video because I'm like, you know what? What am I doing? I said the Bears sucked. I said Justin Fields was Davis Mills 2.0. And then I still put them in a teaser, multiple opportunities to at least cover the teaser. You had the Bucks. Saturday went okay. 3-2 for my plays. 5-2 in the VSiN contest. You know,
Nice.
survive in advance is the name of the game, right, Chris? I mean, what are you going to do?
Well, sounds like I was opposite you, right? My Saturday was really tough. 1-3 on Saturday. Did not have a good day, and I was off to I still am off to a really nice start in college. Brings my record to 11-4 overall. The last, well, if you count week 0, I guess that's 4 weeks total so far, and we're going into actual week 4 this weekend. I had a really good Sunday though. Yesterday was really good. 2-1. Had the Pats late night to sweep the board. Couldn't get the job done, but I'll take it because I got that miracle win on Monday with the Jets. And I'll say it. I mean, there was never a point in that game where I thought I was going to cover that game, especially after Rodgers goes down. We'll take those. And then I got a kind of a miracle push on Thursday too, Kelly, with the Vikings. So NFL was good. College was bad, but I like the games a lot better this weekend for college.
Yeah, we'll get into some of those games here to end it. Let's just go right into a Monday Night Football. I got the WagerTalk odds screen open. Panthers still 3 pretty much across the board. I'll be honest with you, Chris. I was kind of hoping that they were going to go to 2.5 because then I could tease them because that is the name of the game for me sometimes, especially if you can get some really good teasers. Our good friend Trig got me some that are minus 110, and those are very hard to come by anymore. But looks
Yeah.
like New Orleans actually on the WagerTalk odds screen now 3 minus 120. Carolina 3 even money pretty much across the board. Total 39.5. These primetime games involving 2 divisional opponents usually make me gravitate towards the under here, but I just can't pull the trigger on this team. I know that you do have a play on the side though.
I do. So yeah, before I even tweet it out, you guys, if you're watching this show, you're going to get it first here. And I like the Panthers tonight here, and I actually think they're going to get the outright win. Nothing that I saw out of the Saints last week made me think that they would run away they should be the runaway favorite in this division. Seems like Derek Carr and the offense still need some time to get settled in here and acquainted with each other. And I don't think that's going to happen tonight, at least not yet. So the Panthers fans, they have a lot to be excited about with the new regime. Bryce Young now pulling the trigger, so I think it's going to be very loud, rowdy crowd tonight in his home debut. The defense, we all know, is the star of the show for this Carolina team, and I thought they played fairly decent last week, but they didn't force any turnovers last week. I expect that to change tonight. Kel, they should also get a big key piece back here with the wideout DJ Clark. He's questionable, but I think he's going to go. That will help the offense here. I think Bryce Young is going to be able to make enough plays for this Carolina team to stay within the number and probably win this game. So I played on the Carolina Panthers +3 for Monday Night Football.
I'd have to agree with you, Chris. Let's just be honest. If the Panthers want to win this game, it's because the defense shuts down Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, and Shaheed. That's going to be the name of the game. I did see this new thing I've been doing. You're going to laugh with me and a couple of the Fade You guys. And whenever a prominent, I guess you call him a media member from a certain sportsbook, tweets that 99% of the tickets are on XYZ prop bet, like, I don't know props. That's
Sure.
Ariel's job. And actually, when we became friends and I wouldn't say I was mentoring her, but I was giving her like career advice. And I said, pick a niche. And she goes, all right, I'm going to do props. And I'm like, oh, that sounds terrible. But the prop market is beatable. And I find it very interesting. Whenever he tweets out 99% of these props are on one side, boy, do they tend to go that way. So it is actually Rashid Shaheed under receiving yards is the one I already bet. And then Nick Chubb under rushing yards. So I'm going to be joining both of those myself here for that game as well as the next. I know you said you don't have a play on the next Monday Night Football game, so let's just discuss it just for funsies. Cleveland at the Steelers, pretty much. Let me pull back up the odds screen. Open Pittsburgh -1, Cleveland pretty much 2 across the board. Pretty much 39 across the board, and we haven't seen any movement since that opening. Again, I'd love to bet this under here, but I don't know what the Steelers are going to have defensively for an answer for Deshaun Watson and this Cleveland Browns team. But it is a divisional game. And as I mentioned previously, I am a sucker for those primetime divisional home dogs. I was on the Pats with you last night, but I wussed out and I put them in a teaser with the Steelers tonight. And then I went to bed, and then I woke up and I saw they lost by 7, and I thought, this can't get, life is good right now. Like, what am I complaining about? Didn't even have to sweat it. No, of course I did. But that being said, I have the Steelers +8 tonight in a teaser, and that's about as confident as I can get with this team. We know last year, first year, for Kenny Pickett, he had some struggles, right? And we know that historically, Mike Tomlin doesn't lose consecutive home games, but it did happen last year. So got to kind of look back and see, all right, what is this defense going to do that they weren't able to do against Christian McCaffrey in week 1? And that is my big question mark here.
Yeah, it's really tough. I went back and forth on this game, Kelly, and I just said, you know what? I am sitting this one out. It's tough to pull the trigger there on the Steelers, especially after that blowout loss last week to the Niners in week 1. They did not look very good. Browns have some injuries on the offensive line, so that might come into play here. I just couldn't get to the window on a side or total on this one, so it's just going to be Panthers for me tonight. But I think you're in a good spot with your teaser there to close out the Patriots. So I'll be rooting for that and the Panthers.
Yeah, I just got to hope that they don't lose by more than a touchdown. I will say Mike Tomlin, as a home underdog, 16-5-3. It's a great number for him, but maybe he's seeing some regression because he was a home dog last week, as I mentioned, to the Niners. All right, Chris, we're going to get into some of the things we're looking at for college football week 4, maybe some NFL week 3, some games we have circled. Obviously, it is Monday, so these things are very subject to change. These are very early looks. I spent about 30 hours or so today handicapping, had some media stuff I had to do as well. So, again, very early stuff, but let's hear a couple games you have on your radar, Chris.
Yeah, there's actually 3 of them, and they're all dogs. I think you're gonna like all of them. And first one is Clemson. I went right after Clemson lost week 1 to Duke. I went and bet them versus Florida State the next morning because they at the look ahead line. Clemson was favored by 3 in the game that's being played this weekend in Death Valley. And then after Florida State beat LSU and Clemson lost to Duke, Florida State flipped and became a 3.5-point favorite. I grabbed that 3.5 right away. And now this past weekend, Kel, we saw, the Florida State Seminoles, they almost blew that game. BC had a really good chance to win that game. They were sleepwalking the entire game. Florida State, Jordan Travis gets banged up. I give him some credit. He came back in even with the sore shoulder. Looks like he's going to play from the press conference I saw from Mike Norvell this weekend. But Kel, I think that it was kind of a little bit of an overreaction here after Clemson lost to Duke. Clemson's going to be okay. This is a noon game in Death Valley. This is a big one here. This isn't going to be, Florida State's not going to be able to just roll the helmets out and just walk into Death Valley and win this game like they tried to do in Chestnut Hill this past weekend. So I think Cade Klubnik will be a lot better. During that Duke game, they turned the ball over on the 1-yard line 2 times going in to score versus Duke. So that score was a little deceiving. I like Clemson. Another game I like is Notre Dame. I like Notre Dame getting 3.5 at home here versus Ohio State. Ohio State has played nobody. Youngstown State, Western Kentucky, and Indiana, and they had trouble for the first half of all 3 of those games. It was 7-3 this past Saturday versus Western Kentucky until they decided to rip off 35 straight. Kyle McCord, he's still a little shaky. That's the trigger man for the Buckeyes. I think ND, they got Sam Hartman. They got a lot to be excited about, this ND faithful here. This might be the key missing piece that this team has needed and not had over the past 10 to 15 years. So that's another one I'm looking at. I know you're going to like this one. I like Ole Miss this weekend. Your buddy, Lane Kiffin, going into Tuscaloosa. Would not be surprised if the Ole Miss Rebels get the outright win. They're having trouble at the trigger man position as well. They're going to go back to Jalen Milroe, which I think is the right decision for the crowd. They played all three quarterbacks this past Saturday and struggled for South Florida. I mean, I was checking the score on there on my phone. I was out, and it was 7-3 in the third quarter. And I heard that offensive line for the Crimson Tide looked awful. So those are the three that I'm looking at so far.
I would have to agree with you. Ole Miss is on my long list. BYU, I'm going to look at them again. I'm really pissed at myself, Chris. I did not put BYU in my 3-team underdog parlay. I thought, you know what? They're not going to go into Fayetteville and win. I'm getting 9. This is going to be like one of those backdoor cover type situations, and they just absolutely own the Razorbacks. I, again, agree with you on Ole Miss. Georgia Tech already down to 3.5, so unfortunately I missed the good number there. SMU +6 on my radar. West Virginia +6 also on my radar. And your Baylor Bears +14 is going to be an interesting one. I got to look into that one just a little bit more. But Chris, I have a question before we talk Survivor. You mentioned Clemson and Alabama. And those are two teams that over the last decade have just had prolific seasons, right? Georgia can be in that mix. And we just talked about Alabama, their offensive line, their struggles with quarterback. Clemson, last year DJ got a lot of blame for that offense when in reality, doesn't look like it was quite his fault. Let's talk transfer portal. And something that I have kind of started to talk myself into. Maybe it's just because I'm a K-State fan. I don't know. But these big powerhouse schools, sure, they have the money. They can get the NIL deals. But when these kids that are 4 and 5-star recruits get told they're going to play as freshmen or sophomores and then get put on the bench, and they enter that transfer portal, they go to schools like Baylor. They go to schools like Kansas State, Colorado State.
Yep.
Colorado State has been an awful football program for a really long time. And all of a sudden, there's Jay Norvell right in the mix of the transfer portal, and he has got himself a team. So I find it very interesting. Are we seeing maybe a downfall of some of these powerhouses, if you will?
Well, I think you bring up a great point, and that's being talked about Dabo Swinney. He's still trying to do the old school way, keep his guys there, recruit them, and keep them there for 4 years. He's made it very clear he does not like the NIL, and it's absolutely keeping some 4 or 5-star recruits from going to Clemson because he's old school, and I think he's going to need to have to adjust to how college football is now. I mean, this is the way it is, and unfortunately, we're seeing these kids go to 2, 3, 4 different schools throughout their. Some kids are staying and somehow still playing after 5, 6 years.
It's kind of crazy. Yes.
Yeah.
It is wild to see some of these transfers every single year. I mean, I'm very happy with it. Trayshawn Ward actually tried to single-handedly win that K-State game on Saturday. Yep. FSU transfer. We would have never got him in a million years, ever, if it wasn't for the transfer portal. So good things on the horizon, hopefully, for some of these smaller schools. I'm here for all the chaos. I want to see Clemson suffer. I want to see Alabama suffer. Notre Dame, USC, all of these, Texas, all these teams with just boatloads of money can no longer buy these kids, if you will. They care about playing. They care about social media. They care about getting eyeballs on them so that they can get to the next level. Of course, there's kids that are getting paid millions of dollars to play college football, so maybe the next level isn't on their radar, but 90% of them, I'm happy for those guys. Get to drive nice cars, get to really capitalize off their name, image, and likeness, if you will. All right, Chris, we're going to wrap it up. Go ahead. Did you have one more comment?
Yeah, I was going to say, I was surprised. I thought when I said I was on Clemson this weekend, I thought you would have jumped on it a little more and agreed with me. So do you have an opinion on that game yet? Are you still?
I don't. Remember what you just said about Dabo? I'm not sure Dabo and Nick Saban aren't getting left behind. And I have to kind of see a little bit more from both of them. I would agree with you. Florida State looked absolutely terrible in that game. Yes, Jordan Travis injury to his non-throwing shoulder, not a good thing for that team. But that was a look-ahead spot, and I'm kicking myself,
Sure.
halfway through the game, going, "Damn it! Why wasn't I on BC?" Those are the types of spots that I have circled. Florida State, man, they look good. We'll see. I might have to look a little harder at Clemson, but they did not make my initial long list. But you also have to remember, CT, I'm not looking at those 2 and 3 point dogs. I'm looking at like touchdown
I
plus dogs. I mean, I'm looking at FAU plus 13. They have not covered a game all season long. I mean, like what? I'm disgusting. Like Trig and I are like brother sister in the garbage games, the grossness, like just like that's just what we do. I want to find those dogs that nobody else is looking at.
Speaking of FAU, I saw that the trigger man, Casey Thompson, he got hurt this past weekend, actually versus Clemson. He's out for the year. So
Oh,
just put that on
very,
your radar if you're looking
yep.
at FAU this weekend.
I appreciate that. Yesterday, early look, did not see that he was officially out. So thank you for that. Guess that
Yep.
is why FAU is a little higher priced than I thought they
See,
should have
that's
been.
why we have each other
Uh,
here.
Absolutely. Speaking of having each other, CT and I are in the Circus Survivor together. We did advance with Buffalo with, I don't know, 3,000 plus other people. Unfortunately, the Giants did not lose. And unfortunately, the Fade You guys and Uncle Ben and I took the Denver Broncos. Thank you, Russell Wilson, for that one. Also, the Broncos defense just did not come
Oh,
out after halftime. But
woof.
that being said, still alive. We've got
Yep.
4 opportunities. We have not used Baltimore yet. I'd really like to save a couple of other teams. Detroit, maybe. Who are we looking at,
Yep.
CT?
Yeah, I'm with you. You and I always get an early jump to this, and you were working on it last night during Sunday Night Football. We threw a few teams out there. One of them being the Detroit Lions. They're at home this weekend versus the Falcons, who got that miracle win yesterday. Green Bay blew that game. One that I do like, and we're going back and forth a little bit on it, is I like Jacksonville. I know you don't like to play, the in divisional games here, but Jacksonville is at home. They looked terrible yesterday. I think they get right here. Stroud, man, I think the Texans have a lot of problems. I mean, the Colts just absolutely dominated that game yesterday, and I just don't see how the Texans are going to make the adjustments to go down to Jacksonville and win that game. So we got some options here. We're on the week 3, and we're going to keep it going, and we'll start talking about Survivor each week on this little segment as the season rolls on.
Absolutely. Listen, I don't hate the Jacksonville pick. Currently 8.5, 9, even a couple 9.5s right here on the WagerTalk odds screen. But here's what was so frustrating. So I was on the Jags yesterday, CT, if you remember. I took the +3, and I looked at it like this. Okay, Jacksonville, great defense. We know they're going to be able to shut down Kansas City, which they did. But you can't kick games, or you can't win field goal. God, my brain is broken. As I said when I started the show, you cannot win games kicking field goals against Kansas City. It doesn't happen. They settled for
Yep.
field goals entirely too many times, and that is what concerns me. Do I think they're going to lose to Houston? Absolutely not. I'm going to look at my grid. I kind of already have our entire season mapped out, see what else I can find. I did, however, kind of agree with you. We talked about this. Probably best to stay away from Cincinnati right now. Obviously, they
Yes.
were sizable favorites in this matchup. But man, Joe Burrow not healthy scares me, and it's been very clear in the last couple of games that we know. They were 7.5 points to the Rams, now just down to -2. Chris, holy cow! I
Yeah.
just
What does
had to
that
look at
tell
that one
you?
to see.
That tells you
Tells me
Burrow's
it's not
probably out.
probably right,
Yeah.
or game time decision. I'm going to go ahead and delete them off there right now because I don't even want to talk about them anymore. Baltimore Jags,
Ravens.
Detroit.
Yep.
Yep, the Ravens are going to be an interesting one. I will say this: you also mentioned that you thought the Ravens were not that healthy.
Yeah, they were not healthy going into yesterday, and then Beckham he gets hurt as well yesterday. So we got to take a look at their wideouts and see who's actually going to be playing this weekend. I'll tell you, Lamar looks pretty good. You and I on all our preview shows, we said Ravens were going to win that division and kind of be back this year. They're off to a pretty good start. That division is hell, man. That is a gauntlet. So we'll see what happens there. But
It
I
really
think
is.
Baltimore will be safe too.
Yep, I'm with you. So probably Jacksonville or Baltimore will be our pick. Survive and advance is the name of the game, but at Circa, you know, you have to keep Thanksgiving, Christmas into play. So, and you want to save some of these better teams, right? Like, I want to save teams like San Francisco anyway. I want to save teams like Miami anyway. I want to save teams like Dallas and Kansas City. I know some people did elect to burn them, but it sounds like my personal version of hell having to play either the Packers or Lions on Christmas Day. Yeah, right now, probably Lions -3, 3.5 in that game. But we always know. Same old Lions. I had
Same
the
old.
Seahawks yesterday. I thought the Lions had a chance to pull away there. But guess what? Seattle came roaring back, and then the Lions got back in it and made me have to sweat. And I thought, if I lose this coin flip and this game, and then Seattle loses by 6, I'm breaking my dad's TV. I did feel bad, however, because Brett did use the Lions in Survivor. What are you gonna
That's
do?
fine. Yeah, you and I were both on Seattle yesterday, and I was thinking the same thing going into overtime. I'm like, oh my god, if we lose this game by 6, I'm gonna lose my mind. But we were able to get it done there. I thought that was our best pick of the weekend. Seattle +5.
Love it. The money line was nice and juicy. Got the plus 165 there as well. I think 185, 165. I'll have to look at my spreadsheet. That being said, he is CT Bets at CT Bets 16 on Twitter. I am Kelly Stewart. Every Thursday night, you can catch us on The Hustle with Drew Martin and Adam Trigger. We'll see you guys on Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific.